There are so many things to worry about in this world, but the greatest threat comes not from our planet, but from another galaxy where a war wages on to decide who will be our master. This is the mythology of HeMan and the Masters of the Universe.
This toy comes with something that can really open up a kid's imagination. Its own legend.
HeMan!
To explore this mythology, we will use images and artifacts from the Masters of the Universe toy line, magazine, comic books, and cartoons. Much of the information used to create this video was found on the Battleram blog, which is a great resource for any Masters of the Universe fan. I have left a link in the description, and thanks to the Battleram blog for the great work they have done in preserving the legacy of Masters of the Universe. In 1981, Mattel needed their own fictional universe to compete with the likes of Hasbro and Kenner. A prototype of a muscular Superman was created from the childhood drawings of Mattel designer Mark Taylor. In Mark Taylor's fictional universe, the character that would be He-Man was not called He-Man, but was Hordach, hero of prehistory. He was the defender of the weak and righteous and foe of bullies and villains. Mattel designer Roger Sweet was inspired by Mark Taylor's drawings and used them to create a pitch to Mattel executives, showing 3 prototypes of heroes: a tank-headed military robot, a space warrior, and a barbarian. The barbarian was the winner. Roger Sweet named him He-Man. They took more of Mark Taylor's drawings as inspiration for the rest of the line, and the first wave was created. It may just be that the iconic nature of this first wave stems from the harnessing of the childhood imagination of Mark Taylor. He-Man was going to be a Conan-like barbarian, living in a tech-infused fantasy world full of warriors, monsters, and technological marvels. While the main inspiration is Frank Frazetta's drawings, Mark Taylor has said that he was as inspired by John Carter, Warlord of Mars, as he was Conan. In its first few years, He-Man became a massive success, at one point dethroning Barbie as Mattel's #1 seller. Now, any action figure lore is created by not just one person, but by a collaboration of artists, sculptors, designers, and writers. Mark Taylor is considered by some as the unofficial father of He-Man, as it was his drawings and concepts that led to the creation of the most iconic characters. Mark even was the sculptor of Castle Greyskull. However, Mark left Mattel when he believed the brand had gotten too far away from his original concept and moved on to working on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Other designers such as Martin Ariola and Roger Sweet took over, creating many of the famous characters. For He-Man, art was everything, and it was the gorgeously painted packaging art that fueled the imagination of every Masters of the Universe fan. Rudy Obrero created many of the Frank Frazetta-inspired package art. Later, he was joined by William Garland, William George, and Joe Chiodo, who all created iconic art for the brand. And, of course, the great Earl Norem, who created the beautiful covers to the Masters of the Universe magazine. This is the He-Man many of us remember. It was a more frightening, stranger, more dangerous version of Eternia than the Filmation cartoon world. The art evoked a real sense of threat. The Skeletor of this version was never silly or weak. He was a monster, capable of world-ending terror. However, it is the cartoon that would give the definitive version of the story, the one that survives to this day. Developed by Lou Scheimer, who also was the voice of Orko, the cartoon in the comic book invented many of the story elements that have become the lore. The cartoon had a few great storytellers on staff, including J. Michael Straczynski, who was a major force in the comic book world and created the hit sci-fi show Babylon 5. Along with DC Comics and Star Comic Books, this mythology has been expanded on by the 2002 animated show, the comic books, the Motu Classics collection, as well as the Netflix series Revelation Revolution. But the lore began simpler, with the mini-comics included with each figure. In this version, He-Man was a barbarian who stumbled upon great power. Skeletor, a demon from another dimension, searching for the portal that would unleash his minions on Eternia. But it was the comic book and the cartoon that turned He-Man into a prince. Eternia. The planet of Eternia exists side by side with its sister planet, Etheria. The planet is orbited by 2 moons, Bright Moon and Dark Moon. Bright Moon illuminates the side of Eternia where Eternos, the capital, resides, while the Dark Moon covers the area that Skeletor rules. Eternos is a technologically advanced city ruled by King Randor and Queen Marlena. Queen Marlena is an astronaut from the planet Earth whose spaceship crash lands on Eternia. Marlena meets Randor and falls in love. Years later, she marries him and becomes queen. Queen Marlena eventually gives birth to twins, Prince Adam and the warrior child that would eventually grow into She-Ra. But upon She-Ra's birth, She-Ra was stolen by the villain Hordach. Prince Adam grows up a strong, kind, agile youth. One day, he was wandering through Eternia's wind forest and he saw a falcon flying overhead. The falcon transformed into the sorceress. She told him that his birth had been foretold by ancient legends, and the spirits had chosen Adam to share in their secrets. She beckoned him to enter Castle Greyskull. There she gave him the power sword and told him to strike it against the stone, then lift it above his head and chant,
"By the power of Greyskull!"
The chant transformed him into HeMan, the protector of Greyskull and the most powerful man in the universe. To hide his secret and protect his loved ones, Adam presents as a carefree, indulgent, non-confrontational prince. His companion, Cringer, a large and timid cat, becomes the ferocious Battle Cat. The toy Battle Cat was a repaint of a tiger from the then-defunct Big Jim toy line. It's oversized because Big Jim figures were 8 inches tall. HeMan and Battle Cat become the protectors of Castle Greyskull. HeMan wears a harness created from a rare Eternian mineral called Hordach, which adds to his physical strength. He sometimes wields a battle axe and has a variety of weapons and vehicles at his disposal, such as the Battleram, a powerful vehicle with a battering ram, laser guns, and a launching missile. The front section of the Battleram detaches as a flying sky sled. HeMan sometimes wears a harness that allows him to throw powerful punches, striking his enemies from hundreds of feet away. The source of all of HeMan's power is Castle Greyskull. At the center of the Masters of the Universe mythology lies Castle Greyskull. An ingenious toy, the set is considered one of, if not the greatest action figure playset of all time. Its ingenuity exists not just in its sculpt or its action features, although those were a lot of fun, but in the way the playset inspires story. For a kid playing with HeMan, Greyskull is the eternal MacGuffin. That's Alfred Hitchcock's word for the device that fuels the story. The players battle for who controls Castle Greyskull. It is a neutral place, neither good nor evil, but the one who controls Castle Greyskull will be the master of the universe. But how was it created? What is its purpose? The first clues to the origins of Greyskull were included in the read-along book, Castle Greyskull. Hundreds of years before the events of HeMan, what is now called Castle Greyskull was once the Hall of Wisdom. This is a place where the elders gathered. It was the center of Eternian culture and a storehouse of all knowledge of the universe. The sorceress had a prophetic vision. An evil was coming to Eternia, and they must hide their power. They concentrated their magic to create the Orb of Power and hid it within Castle Greyskull. The face of Greyskull is a fanged skull, its terrifying facade designed to hide the magic inside. Named after the famed warrior King Devon Greyskull, who died sacrificing himself to beat back Hordach. Greyskull was a kind and powerful ruler who presided over Eternia with his wife Vina, who would eventually become the first sorceress. When the evil Hordach attempted to take over Eternia by opening a portal to the dark dimension, the Spondos, a move that would have doomed Eternia. Riding atop his battle lion, Greyskull waged a ferocious battle against Hordach and his minions. Greyskull sacrificed himself to close the portal and send Hordach back, but upon his death, his power was concentrated into the Power Sword. The elders kept the sword, waiting for the day when a champion would be born who was capable of wielding its power, and a sorceress was appointed to protect the castle. The being known as the sorceress is the protector of Castle Greyskull and imbued with mystical powers. However, her powers are confined to use inside the castle. There is not one sorceress, but several. The first sorceress was Vina, the wife of King Greyskull. She immersed herself in the Pool of Power, a magical body of water hidden deep inside the castle, and emerged the sorceress. She guarded the castle until she finally passed the mantle to Kuduk Ungol, who passed it on to Tila Na, the current sorceress. The origin of Tila Na. So much of the lore in HeMan and the Masters of the Universe is based on the hero of 1,000 faces. book by Joseph Campbell that Mark Taylor said he was directly inspired by. Both He-Man and Tila Na have their own hero's journeys. If you want to hear more about the hero's journey, I made a video deep dive on my other channel. You can check that out right here. When a sorcerer called Morgoth the Terrible threatened her home village, a young Tila Na ventured out on her own hero's journey to find power that would help her protect her people. A town elder told her to go to Castle Greyskull. She ventured to the castle and begged entry. Here she met Hordach Ungol, the sorceress. Hordach was elderly and would not live much longer, and needed to pass the duties on to a new sorceress. Tila Na was offered the mantle of sorceress and all the power she would need to defeat Morgoth and save her village. But she would need to leave behind her life in the village, and leave behind her baby daughter Tila, as she would be confined to live within the walls of Castle Greyskull until the next sorceress would be found. Tila Na accepted and used her powers to defeat Morgoth's forces and imprison him. When she returned to Greyskull, Hordach Ungol had disappeared. The sorceress is a being of great power. She can see through time and space. In order to leave Castle Greyskull, she must transform into the falcon Zoar. It was the sorceress that gave Prince Adam the Sword of Power. He-Man's sword was once split into two halves, a dark half and a light. In the original toy, one half came with He-Man and the other with Skeletor. And by placing the two together, the power sword became one and also became the key to unlocking the power of Castle Greyskull. The idea of the sword being split in half featured heavily in the mini-comics but is missing from the Filmation show, which depicts the sword as simply one sword given to He-Man by the sorceress. He-Man has many heroic warriors who help him battle against the forces of evil. Duncan is He-Man's most trusted companion. His official title is the Man-at-Arms. It is a role of a military advisor, weapons master, and combat instructor. Duncan is a master of weapons both ancient and advanced. He uses his knowledge to create many of the vehicles and companions to help battle Skeletor. It is Man-at-Arms that built the heroic Roboto. It is Man-at-Arms who saved the damaged warrior Mechanic and gave him his mechanical neck. It is Man-at-Arms who built the heroic steed Stridor. Duncan is the adopted father of Tila. When Man-at-Arms prevented the evil warrior Merman from sacrificing Zoar to the demon Bakul, afterwards, Man-at-Arms climbed into Zoar's nest and found a baby girl left on her own. This is the daughter of the sorceress of Castle Greyskull, Tila. Tila grew to become a fierce warrior and the captain of the royal guard. It is prophesied that one day she will become the sorceress, a prophecy that comes true in the series Masters of the Universe Revelation. The original Tila action figure was meant to be two characters in one, Tila the warrior and the goddess. The goddess wears a snake armor and wields a snake-headed staff. While the myth of the goddess has changed and evolved through the many versions of Masters of the Universe, the current mythos sees the goddess as a separate character, Shirella, who has existed before the time of King Greyskull and has guided many warriors throughout Eternian history. She occasionally may take the form of the Green Goddess and gain mystical powers. Orko is a magician and the comic relief of the Filmation show. He is a Trollin, born in the interdimensional world of Trolla, who was transported to Eternia during a cosmic storm. He stumbled upon a young Prince Adam and his pet Cringer and saved them. For his brave deed, he was granted the role of court jester. On his homeworld, he is an accomplished magician, but due to the differences in laws of physics from Eternia and Trolla, his magic often backfires here and he becomes the source of much comedy. His face is covered, as it is Trollin custom to never show one's face. The mysterious figure Zodak is neither good nor evil, but a cosmic enforcer. He seemingly knows all. He is the last surviving member of the Council of Elders, the beings responsible for creating Castle Greyskull. He is a being of great power, but stays neutral in the conflict, although he seems to favor the forces of good. There are many races living on the planet of Eternia. There are the Rock People, led by Stondar and Rockon, who are refugees from a destroyed planet. The Gar, a face of blue-skinned people that Skeletor and the heroic warrior Cyclone come from. The Widgets, a race of dwarf-like humanoids who mine cordite, the material used for He-Man's baldric. The Avionians, who live at high altitudes in the mystic mountains in the city of Avion. The heroic warrior Stratos is their leader. And a race of dragons led by the wise Granamir that lives in Darksmoke, a citadel in the ice mountains in the northern part of Eternia. The Moss Man is a being of great power that exists as one with all the plant life in Eternia. He can control plants and grow vines from his body or disguise himself by becoming one with the environment. The action figure had a nice pine scent. He is an entity and fulfills an important role in keeping the evergreen forest of Eternia vibrant and flourishing. In addition to these warriors, He-Man has many more heroic friends, like Manny Faces, a former actor who can transform into 3 modes, robot, human, and monster, or the warriors Ram Man, Fisto, Rio Blast, Clamp Champ, Snout Spout, and more. And he will need all the help he can get, as the forces of Skeletor are always plotting to take Castle Greyskull and use its power for evil. Skeletor and the Evil Warriors. Skeletor began as a drawing from Mark Taylor from a story Mark had begun writing back in college, and was resurrected when pitching the storyline to Mattel executives. The mini-comics present Skeletor as a demon from another dimension, desperate to conquer Castle Greyskull so he may open a portal to unleash his armies upon Eternia. However, this storyline was abandoned by the Filmation cartoon and has evolved over the years. It turns out Skeletor is not a demon, but was once a man, Keldor, the adopted half-brother of King Randor. His blue skin is because he is half Gar, a race of blue-skinned Eternians. He was denied the crown and sought to take power from his brother. He became the apprentice of the evil sorcerer Hordach and proved to be adept at magic. So if he is human, where did he get his skull-like appearance? When Keldor attempted to assassinate King Randor, Keldor tossed a vial of acid at his brother, but Randor deflected it back at him, searing the skin off of his face. Hordach saved him with magic, but left him with this grotesque skeletal appearance. In an alternate continuity, Hordach presented Skeletor with the Havoc Staff, a weapon of great power. The corrupting power of the Havoc Staff melted Skeletor's face, leaving him with this skeletal appearance. It also wiped away the memory of his former life. Skeletor eventually betrayed Hordach in a play to take Eternia for himself. Skeletor is a master sorcerer with many powers at his disposal. The Havoc Staff is an ancient weapon passed down from sorcerer to sorcerer. It can fire bolts of energy or be used to direct magic. If that is not enough, Skeletor can bring out the Terror Claws, massive claws that can rip through metal. He rides into battle on a giant armored panther named Panther. Skeletor commands an army of evil warriors and henchmen, such as Triclops, Clawful, Too Bad, Faker, Whiplash, Webster, Cobracon, or the cyborg Trapjaw. There are too many to name here, but Skeletor's most loyal servant is Beastman, a powerful warrior capable of controlling the beasts of Eternia. He works side by side with Merman, a sea-dwelling warrior. The two often bicker. But Skeletor's most brilliant henchman is the evil sorceress Evil-Lyn. The daughter of the powerful sorcerer, the Faceless One, Evil-Lyn became a skilled sorceress. She often plots to take power for herself and is willing to betray her master for her own ends. One of the most evil creatures to serve Skeletor is the Scareglow, a ghostly skeleton that glows in the dark. Scareglow has many mysterious origins. One version of his story explains that Scareglow is the ruler of an alien dimension that Skeletor conjured, beat into submission, and forced to do his bidding, while another claims that Scareglow is the spirit of Skeletor himself, conjured as a unique and dangerous being. While the series Revelation turns Scareglow into the ruler of the underworld, Subterranea. Every villain needs a home, and Skeletor's home is Snake Mountain, a massive mountain fortress with a giant snake coiled around its surface. Snake Mountain is an ancient place and was once the headquarters of a race of snake men. The snake surrounding the mountain is not simply a sculpture, it is actually the god Serpos. When Serpos threatened to destroy Eternia, the Council of Elders used their power to turn it into stone. At first it matched the image of the three-headed snake god, but over time the two heads crumbled, leaving only one, and the body somewhat damaged. While Skeletor is the main villain facing Eternia, he is not the only one. In fact, a far more ancient evil threatens the universe. It is the sorcerer who trained Skeletor, Hordach and the Horde. Hordach and his Horde emerged in the 1985 Masters line and became the main antagonists of She-Ra. But Hordach's history hints at an evil that existed long before Skeletor, a history of evil that has threatened Eternia for thousands of years. Hordach has a vampiric bone-white face and wears the symbol of the Horde on his chest. the symbol is a red bat-like creature and is the symbol of the Horde Empire. His real name is Hector Kerr, and he is the heir to the Horde Empire. He emerged in Preternia and almost conquered Eternia until he was banished into the dark dimension Despondos by the sacrifice of King Greyskull. Hordach's headquarters is the Fright Zone, which in the Filmation cartoon bears little resemblance to the action figure playset with the same name. The real Fright Zone is a technological industrial fortress with many rooms and towers. Doom Tower is the main location where Hordach surveys all he has conquered. The Plunder Room contains the trophies from Hordach's many conquests. The Slime Room contains a massive reservoir of slime where monstrous beasts are grown to be used in battle.
Here we've assembled some of the creatures we may use in further conquering Etheria and subduing the rebels, bog waddlers, slime scrapers, swamp crawlers, howlers, creepers, and screamers.
Hordach's realm also houses a slime pit, and if a person is submerged into his slime, they will become the unwilling minion of Hordach. Hordach is the current ruler of the planet Etheria. Hordach is a sorcerer who combines the power of magic with technology. He has modified his body to transform into machines of war. His arm can morph into a laser cannon or a variety of melee weapons. A buzzsaw emerges from his chest to tear apart his enemies. Hordach has plagued Eternia since the time of King Greyskull. Hordach serves the will of Horde Prime, rumored to be Hordach's brother. Horde Prime is a shadowy villain that seems above interfering directly in the war to take Eternia. He has many forms, but in the Filmation cartoon was presented as a glowing green gaseous cloud that can manifest a giant iron fist. He travels the galaxy in his ship, the Velvet Glove. Hordach's minions are known as the Horde. They are an evil group of henchmen possessing strange powers. The Horde includes Grizzlor, Mantana, Leech, Modulak, Dragstore, Multibot, Mosquitor, and the sorceress Shadow Weaver. Hordach raised two girls to become his minions, Catra and Adora. However, Adora rebelled and discovered she is She-Ra, HeMan's twin sister. She-Ra went against Hordach and rages a revolution to free the people of Etheria. However, the mythology of She-Ra is without a doubt worthy of its own video, so we will only briefly reference her here to leave room for further exploration. In addition to the evil warriors and the Horde, Eternia is under threat from many other evil beings, like the evil Count Marzo, a corrupt sorcerer who commands a legion of shadow beasts, or Evil Seed, the evil master of plant life, who can conjure monstrous vegetation to do his bidding, or the Anti-HeMan, the master of Anti-Eternia, a hellish world located in the universe of darkness. But the most ancient evil that threatens Eternia is King Hiss and his army of Snake Men. The Snake Men, ruled by King Hiss, are a group of warriors from the prehistory of Eternia. King Hiss's humanoid appearance covers his true form, a mass of venomous snakes. He has the power to hypnotize his enemies and wields a staff that can fire snaking bolts of energy. He commands an array of snake men, all with different abilities. King Hiss answers to the Unnamed One, a shadowy figure who we never see the true form of. Hundreds of years before He-Man was born, King Hiss created an empire that conquered galaxies, until he finally settled on Eternia and built Snake Mountain as his home. The Snake Men attempted to conquer Eternia, but were beaten back by the ancient warrior Hero and his friend Eldor. They were trapped in a limbo-like dimension until they were released by Skeletor. Skeletor and King Hiss created an uneasy alliance, agreeing to band together to take over Eternia, while vowing to destroy the other as soon as the task was done. It was Skeletor and King Hiss who gave rise to the Three Towers of Eternia. The Three Towers of Eternia is the largest playset ever produced for the Masters of the Universe line. It has a deep history full of esoteric meaning. The Three Towers were built by the ancients as a way of maintaining peace across Eternia. The Greyskull Tower was created to honor the forces of good. The Snake Tower was created to represent the forces of evil, and the Central Tower was created to balance both good and evil. The towers contained doorways to great power, and the elders, afraid King Hiss would use this power to take over Eternia, buried the towers underground. Skeletor and King Hiss used their powers to resurrect the towers, turning it into the ultimate battleground. as the many forces of evil struggle against HeMan and his heroic warriors. The Eternia Playset was created in 1986, just a short while before the Masters of the Universe line was retired. The central tower of Eternia contains the power to travel through time. The sorceress uses this power to lead HeMan back in time to the story that would have taken the Masters of the Universe line into its end. All the way back to Preternia. Preternia is the ancient world of Eternia where dinosaurs and humanoids coexist and giants roam the land. The world is under attack by King Hiss and his Snake Man. Here, HeMan comes face to face with his ancestor, Hero. Grey, the original alter ego for Hero, would, by placing one hand over his heart and flexing the other into a muscle and saying, "Magic and strength tempered by heart, I stand for peace," would become Hero of Greyskull, the most powerful wizard in the universe. Hero was to team up with his ancestor HeMan and battle against King Hiss amongst the dinosaurs and giants of Preternia, but the line was cancelled and the Hero was never produced. The Masters of the Universe ended as kids of the day moved on to different toys and video games, but the story of the conflict between HeMan and the evil forces that plague Eternia lives on, with new versions of HeMan created by Mattel and Mondo and the Four Horsemen, and a new movie on the way, making it one of the most successful collector properties of our time. This has been the mythology of the Masters of the Universe. This is by no means meant to be an exhaustive history. It is rather an explanation of the mythology, giving the viewer a base of knowledge that will help them understand the world. This video will be expanded on with a mythology focusing on She-Ra, and check out the mythologies of G.I. Joe and Mask here, and let me know in the comments below what mythology you want me to tackle next.